Hey guys, welcome to the AT Chat. Today we are going to be doing the first ever Q&A video that this channel has ever done. So this is going to be off the cuff, just me answering questions and just having a kind of soothing background for us to glance at in a little audio spectrum. So that way the visual doesn't get boring while you listen to my voice. So the first question is from Caleb Diaz, and the question is, would you consider the Jedi of the prequel era to be corrupt? Well, I don't think corruption would be the answer I would use, because I don't think they're actually corrupt in the sense of being up to like nefarious deeds like the Sith or smugglers, scoundrels, you know, those types of the galaxy. But I think the best way to put it is the prequel Jedi were failing to only be servants of the light and kind of gave over their Jedi Order to the Republic and became, you know, a militarized organization which trained, you know, troopers for war, which in my head is against the philosophy of being a Jedi, and I think the two books, or no, one's a book, one's a comic. The comic of Qui-Gon Jinn, Age of Republic, I believe that comic dives into this concept of perhaps the Jedi Order losing its way in its connection with the light because of its allegiance to the Republic, you know, and to be honest, in a lot of ways, that's why I think the disillusionment of how the sequels portrayed the Jedi of old as, you know, this mythological group who did all these great deeds is actually not exactly entirely true. You know, I thought it was great because it touches upon a realistic aspect that George Lucas was going for. They're not corrupt, but they are engaging in things that are very anti-Jedi in my opinion. So hopefully that answers your question. So the next question is actually a really tough one, and this comes from a longtime sub, White Wolf 496. And the question is, if you could choose any director who hasn't directed a Star Wars movie, who would it be? So to be honest, I just watched the movie Tenet, and while a lot of people have a lot of issues with that movie, I don't have any. I think it was a brilliant movie. I love the style of it. So the person I think I would love to see make a Star Wars, if they would ever be interested in even doing something like that, would be Christopher Nolan, specifically because of how he deals with time. And the one specific idea I had, I think last year, I brought this up maybe on a live stream or maybe on Twitter, I'm not sure. And the idea was, if there was going to be a Star Wars movie that Christopher Nolan was going to tackle and was asked to do, since he's a guy obsessed with time, why not have him make a story where the world between worlds is integral to the plot? Not saying that he will change time, because in Christopher Nolan's worldview, time is a deterministic thing. You know, in Tenet, the idea is like whatever's happened, happened. There's no changing the past or the future. It's fixed. However, in that fixed system is still the concept of free will, so it's bizarre. But that's why I think it's great for Dave Filoni and maybe Christopher Nolan or something, if this ever happens, to make a movie about the world between worlds. Because yes, it's a fixed timeline. There is no changing the outcomes of things in the future or past, because if you go to that zone and you do anything, then that thing has actually always been the thing that happened at that point in the future or past. If you're losing me, then I don't know, maybe just go read about this and watch Tenet. You'll understand. So yeah, I would pick Christopher Nolan to tackle a world between worlds plotline in Star Wars, whether it's big screen or TV, hopefully big screen. And hopefully it's audible. And this kind of touches on another thing a lot of people keep bringing up in fandom that are disappointed with the sequels. And, you know, everybody has a right to be disappointed with movies. I'm not saying you aren't, but what I do wish is that a lot of these people who have a big following wouldn't be misleading to younger individuals that also dislike these movies and are believing that there's this war going on at Lucasfilm over decanonizing the sequels and creating an alternate reality where they exist based on the fact that Ahsoka's voice is in The Rise of Skywalker, indicating that she did die, but Dave Filoni said that she didn't, so oh my god, the world between worlds must be involved, right? I don't know. I guess believe what you want to believe, but I think it's weird that Disney would be at war with Disney, Lucasfilm would be at war with Lucasfilm. It just makes no sense, and it just sounds like typical tabloid YouTube stuff. So yeah, if you're listening to me, just don't believe all that stuff until official news is dropped from Lucasfilm. All right, moving on to the next question. And this comes from Nick Canavan. And the question is, how are you feeling about the High Republic? I'm pretty pumped for some new era of Star Wars. Yeah, I've finally been diving into the synopsises of the books coming out and just learning as much as I can before Tuesday when Into the Dark debuts, which I already have pre-ordered and queued up in my Audible ready to go. And yeah, I'm really excited because I like the aesthetic of Star Wars and how things change over time. So when they presented the artwork, I was like, yeah, I really dig this real throwbacky high fantasy 80s thing going on. Really reminded me of like Mad Max a bit, or you know, the sequel to Mad Max where they kind of have like the headbands and all that kind of stuff. Really cool. I thought the new lightsaber designs were really neat. In the idea of this more Wild West oriented Jedi times before the prequel era, because this is what, 200 years before the prequels, and then this era also ends around 50 years before the prequels. So, you know, it's just interesting. We're getting Jedi Rangers around the galaxy and these galactic-wide disaster thing that's going to be happening, and plant monsters that are going to be who knows what. Like supposedly they're going to be on this these things called the Dringer, I think is how you pronounce the alien name. They're very Lovecraftian monsters, and apparently they're going to be on this station somewhere in one of these stories. And to me, stuff like that's really weird and strange and disturbing, and these being ancient Jedi, and you know, it just really makes me excited. And the other thing I like about this is I believe this feels like more of an EU, like a kickoff point. Like finally the new EU is happening. You know, we've gotten some Thrawn, we've gotten some side stories that help the sequels, and we've gotten the prequel to the sequels, the Aftermath trilogy. So yeah, we've had something, but this feels fresh and this feels very much like its own thing. And of course, it's going to tie into other materials we know that exist. There'll be Easter eggs, but yeah, really excited for it. And the next question kind of parrots off this first one, and this comes from Molly Thomas. Question is, do you have any theories about the High Republic era? And if so, what are they? Well, I don't really have many theories. I have maybe two, and the first one is I think that this will actually explore in a more obtuse way, kind of a roundabout way, the origins of Snoke, since we know there's a bit of a connection here if you've watched one of my previous videos from this week, where someplace that Snoke used to reside exists in the High Republic, and apparently it's a place that's a little bit, you know, shadowy and dark. So it's going to be interesting to see if they explore maybe the idea that Snoke was a real individual, and then this individual then went on to be, you know, remade by the Sith. Because I do think by the end of the High Republic, there will be some sort of, oh my god, the Sith are back. But then those people that know it are killed before they can tell the, you know, Jedi Order itself, you know, the Masters and the High Council. But we'll see. That's a bit of a reach and really out there. And then the other theory I have, and this is more about the show Acolyte, which I heard was taking place 50 years before The Phantom Menace. I might be wrong on that, and maybe that's just a book that's taking place then. But I think we'll be getting some Plagueis. I have a feeling that the Acolyte is referring to a follower of the Sith, but they don't want to call it the Sith, right? Because maybe that's too on the nose. So my guess, my hunch, is that some Plagueis Palpatine stuff is going to be going on. I think that would make Palpatine like a baby. But I don't know, maybe we'll get some Banking Clan stuff. So I'm banking on some kind of Plagueis connection in that show, but we'll see. So hopefully that answers your question. And going into today's final question for the first Q&A, it comes from Com Moran. And the question is, I'm interested as to why you started a channel, and also which trilogy is your favorite and why, who's your favorite character, and just generic Star Wars questions like that. So it's a couple questions, and let's just dive into it. So the reason I actually started my channel initially was, as a fan of Star Wars, I came out of The Last Jedi after my second viewing, and I was like, oh, this movie was great. And then I saw online the opposite reaction, but not in the sense of like, you know, this movie could have been a bit better paced. It's kind of like a C, B minus, you know, just kind of reactions that, you know, are real valid criticisms without the hyperbole. However, what we got were a lot of young men and young women on their platforms screaming into the microphone about how much this movie ruined their lives and everything. And it wasn't that it was hyperbole. It was that it was almost like these people were sincere. And now we all know that not to be the case because, you know, as a YouTuber myself, there is a push to make controversial content because it allows a better watch time, which, you know, the YouTube algorithm loves controversial content because it keeps people engaged, basically. And the more you push it out consistently, the more you're going to grow at a very, very fast rate. And yeah, once people figured this out, that they could actually like monetize hate, they just kind of, I think, went off the rails with this obsessing over this one movie that wasn't perfect, but to such a degree that I was like, I'm just gonna make fun of these people. So my first inkling was just to make meme videos, which I did for, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, and then I did some basic videos about The Last Jedi and some basic videos about Star Wars, but I had no plans at all to make a real channel. And then I just happened to have fun doing it. All of a sudden I had like 100 subs maybe in a month because, you know, I wasn't taking it seriously. And then I think all of a sudden I had 500 subs, and I've made a few more videos and a few more skits and parodies of like reviews and stuff. And then I started to take it a bit seriously, and I was like, well, maybe I should just actually make some videos about what I think about Star Wars that are a little bit more, you know, serious, and hopefully people will appreciate and give them a way of looking at something in a new way. And for me, since the most current Star Wars were the new Disney films, that's pretty much what I focused on, with some very minor deviations for a while. You know, because I'm not a lore guy. I know enough lore to talk with a lot of people, and I've never really been a mega fan of the EU, even though I've read a lot of Star Wars books. To me, I've always looked at that as like a alternative history myself, and there's just so many lore channels that kind of, in my opinion, no offense, they feel like all the same channel. It's all, you know, 10 facts about why this Jedi was actually a clone, the amazing reason why Darth Vader couldn't poop, top 10 lists of the top 10 Jedi from the EU. You know, it's a very repetitive kind of approach to things, where I kind of like people that do things that I've never thought about, like fleet battles. Like one of my favorite channels is Eckhart's Ladder, because the way his mind thinks is very interesting. He goes, what if I take this faction from this era and this faction from this era, and I have them fight, and I figure out with some logical standards how one would win over the other, right? And it's very interesting. And then there's like channels I love, like E.C. Henry, that's into the more ship-oriented aspect of things, and he's also a CG modeler, and, you know, builds his own custom ships or finds things that are obscure in the background in the movies and models them and gives them his own canon story, or his own head canon story. It's great. So I like the novel channels, and like Hello Greedo is one of my favorite too. Does kind of his own thing, very, very varied. Does variety channel stuff, right? But it's still Star Wars oriented. However, since it's not really controversial, a lot of these guys kind of, you know, don't seem to be blowing up like the hate stuff. So it's been interesting. So I came on here just to do my thing, and honestly, I have no idea why I have 33,000 subs right now. You know, I think now it's averaging out to be back to normal from when I was like starting it, where it's just a couple thousand views. It's really only a handful of people that are like dedicated subs to this channel. You know, the lightsaber analysis duels really helped this place out a lot, which was really fun. But then when I realized that YouTube was just this place where like you make a video and somebody else makes money off of like obsessing over your video because they disagree with it, I was like, why even waste the time doing it? It just kind of got not fun to me at that point. So I was like, Mandalorian's coming out, I'm gonna start focusing on that. And to be honest, The Mandalorian re-energized me, because for a while I've been having a tough time with wondering if I even want to continue YouTube, because after last year, my channel was growing a lot. It was great. It was wild and very, very exciting. I was really proud of what I've accomplished. And then we had the dreaded algorithm change. And in February, literally on February 14th, I went from, I don't know, I would say 60,000 views a day to 2,000 views a day. Literally overnight. And then the subs went from, I think, about 500 to 1,000 every week or so to 3 a day, 4 a day, and now it's finally, after over a year, or half a year, finally back to maybe 20 a day. So yeah, it's a real strange place to be doing stuff now. Got very discouraged for a while because I was like, man, why am I putting in this effort when the things that are actually taking off are highly controversial, and I just have no interest in wasting my energy on things that I don't like. Unless it's like a review of something that's current, you know? I'm not gonna like everything, but you know what I mean. I'm not obsessed with being negative, which I think YouTube placates to. So hopefully that answers to your first question. That was kind of long-winded. And then the other question is, which trilogy is my favorite? Well, I have to say the original trilogy, and that's purely based on two things. I think Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back are like amazing. A New Hope is okay. I've always thought it was okay. To me, it's the most boring Star Wars film, period. I still think it's better than the prequels, but it's very boring to me personally. But as a package, that whole tale from front to back is solid. And it just has this aesthetic and quality to it that is just never going to be replicated. You really can't, even though The Force Awakens and the sequels did kind of dive into that lived-in universe look that the original trilogy had. There was something so special about the original trilogy too. As a kid, popping in a VHS at like, 6 a.m. in the morning before my parents get up, and it's like the halfway point of Return of the Jedi or the halfway point of Empire Strikes Back, and you just jump in, and it's animated ships, stop animated ships with the motion control. Like, everything about filmmaking and how they made those movies were just something I was obsessed with as a kid. And then after that, I would say the sequel trilogy. I like the sequel trilogy more than the prequels, and that's purely just from as a filmmaker and editor standpoint, and I like the cinematography. I just think it's a better product, not necessarily a better story now that I reflect back with the final film, but overall just I think better made films than the prequels, but the prequels win the story battle on that front. So yeah, original trilogy is my favorite. And then my favorite character, honestly, it's got to be a toss-up between Luke Skywalker and Kylo Ren. Now, Luke Skywalker, because Luke Skywalker in Return of the Jedi is amazing. He's my favorite Luke, and I also like TLJ Luke, because to me they're one and the same. I don't know. Plenty of people out there think that this was some sort of blasphemous betrayal, and they use quotes from actors as like validation of their bias against something, which is, to me, it makes no sense, because plenty of actors have issues with everything. And it's just very disingenuous of people to use quotes and things and stuff just to manipulate other people into their little hate zone. But I love Luke in Return of the Jedi, and I love Luke in The Last Jedi. But Luke in Return of the Jedi is so great just because him in black, him with the green lightsaber, and just like, a little, is he teetering on the dark and all that stuff, and that final lightsaber duel is just so epic. And when the Mandalorian gave us that Luke, I was like, oh my god, can't believe they did it. But I was so happy they did, because while I did like The Last Jedi and that Luke in the final chapter in the story, I do think we also need the young Luke with the lightsaber, the legend we all know of, to just, get that story. We know where it's heading. That's not going anywhere. And if you don't like it, you don't have to watch the movie, and you can let your headcanon be something else. But it doesn't mean that we can't explore badass Luke in this point in his life, and who knows what's going to happen. I hope that he doesn't end up having baby Grogu at the temple and he gets massacred too, because maybe that's why maybe he saw that in Ben Solo's mind. He was like, not Grogu. And then he was like, I'm going to kill this motherfucker. But like, probably not. Probably didn't happen. But we'll see. So Luke Skywalker, and Kylo Ren is more of a sort of personal thing, I guess. Like I just like his attitude in the movies. People call him emo, but to me it's just to me that's just Adam Driver, and I just love the portrayal of the character, even if the story was clunky. I love the idea of a man-child kind of hiding behind a mask, being imposing, being so powerful, but not knowing what to do with it. So just, being angry and frustrated and just being like, fuck everything. I'm just going to join this thing that's very anti what my parents were, and they don't like me anyways, so I'm just gonna give myself over to the dark side. And, you know, my uncle tried to kill me too, and my parents sent me there, so like, what does that say about my family and what they think of me? It's very interesting. But even cosmetically, I loved the riff on how Vader's look would influence his grandson and how he'd want to appear. And people were like, oh my god, they ripped him off. And I'm like, no, this is just a natural extension of somebody obsessed with something. Like, I don't know. I guess anybody can become mad about anything. So, yeah, that's what I think about that. But yeah, Kylo Ren is great. I thought his redemption arc was a bit, you know, regular, very Star Wars. It wasn't new in any way to me, except for the healing and dyad thing. That was cool, and I like that he did heal Rey. He could have had a better back end story there, like with an epilogue where he is in self-imposed exile in Occ 2, but rather than wanting to die and end the Jedi, he is, you know, relearning the right way to be the Jedi. You know what I mean? Powerful light, powerful darkness, figuring out how to hold that within himself, and we get to wonder what happens to Ben Solo down the way. And then they could make EU books about him, but nope, they close the door, which is really bad, and I think it's stupid, but it is what it is, and hopefully we just get these early history stories put to live TV. So that kind of does it for today's first Q&A ever. As I said, I didn't really want to go too long. Just a few questions for each one of these each week, and I just highly encourage you to leave questions down below if you've made it to the end. And I would love to make sure that this is a series on the channel, because it allows me to be consistent, which is something I want to do more of. So that way you guys know, like, every Monday is a Q&A video, and every Wednesday is a various video on a Star Wars subject. So yeah, this was fun. I hope you guys had fun. May the Force be with you. Nadat is signing off.